You're listening to the Clean Comedy Podcast with James Creviston and LukeLacoy.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Clean Comedy Podcast. I'm James. Today, you can tell, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can tell I moved my desk around. I got a new desk. I got a new setup in the office. I'm doing some cool stuff. Not as cool as Luke, right, Luke? Yeah, look at that. Luke is cool. How'd you do that? I don't even know how to do that kind of stuff.
There's filters on Zoom that will attach to your face.
Really?
Yeah.
I got to figure that one out. That's cool. Anyways, so today we are actually going to answer a question, and I thought it was a really good question. We had a question on YouTube from The Darkness, which I thought was awesome. Actually, that's a cool screen name there. So The Darkness came and sent a question. So I'm going to read the question first, Luke, and then we can go into answers. You can decide whether you want to answer first or you want me to answer first. Okay.
Oh.
So here we go. Here's a question. It's actually two parts because I wrote them back and said, hey, I'll do a podcast to answer your first part. But then they said, hey, you're going to do a podcast. Please answer the second part. So here's what they wrote. Hi, guys. I have a question for you. I'm interested in doing stand-up, but I'm not sure if my plan to get to the stage is too complicated. Based on my reading of Rick Olson's book, Hook 'em with Humor, I'm thinking of doing acting, improv, joining my local Toastmasters to learn presentation skills, a joke writing course, most likely something with Jerry Corley, and story writing. Do you think doing all of these will help with accelerating my stand-up progress? Is it too much, or are some things unnecessary? I would appreciate hearing your thoughts on this and what your recommendations are. Thanks in advance for your feedback. So then I wrote him back and said, hey, I'll do a poll podcast. Part 2 was, hi, James, if you're going to make a podcast and I have more ideas that I'd like to get verification on to see if my understanding is solid. My impression about being successful in comedy is one has to be successful in 3 main areas: writing, performance, and business. Failure in any one of these 3 is going to be limiting to one's career. Performance would encapsulate acting, improv, and presentation skills. Writing would encompass story writing and joke writing. Business would be networking, advertising, and the plethora of other knowledge and soft skills. Business would also include retaining good management too. In terms of writing comedy, my understanding is that personal experience, point of view, and level of comfort with sharing information about oneself or personality are the biggest drivers of comedic material. And while technique is important to cultivate the material, make it funny, technique is not a mystery or should be secretive. It's one's personality that is going to be the source of material and how that material is presented. So there's a lot to dig into here, right? And I really love this question. It's probably one of my favorite questions anyone's ever asked. Like I was excited when I saw this. Did I text you right away after I saw this, or did I message you right away? Yeah,
you did.
I was so stoked. Literally, I was like, oh, I'm so excited. So, first of all, Darkness, thank you. Secondly, I live by the rule of KISS, which is keep it stupid simple. So that's what we're going to try to do here in this process. Do you want to answer first, Luke, or do you want me to answer first?
I'll take a stab at part 1.
Okay, go ahead.
So for part 1, yes, joining Toastmasters will definitely be beneficial. Improv, definitely beneficial. Just in the fact that you're kind of you're presenting yourself, essentially. If you're doing that mixed with open mics, if there's any available in your area, that is probably the best thing you can do. Just so you're in front of people, you're working on your presentation skills, and that is gonna really get you in it the quickest, I would say. Courses are great. Jerry Corley's great. I would recommend Jared's book.
Wait, are you talking about Jared Vole?
Yes.
Vole.
Playfully inappropriate.
Inappropriate, yeah.
I would recommend that book because I'm kind of jumping here a little bit, but okay. He was talking about storytelling, unique to their personality, and that book is exactly that. It teaches you how to write for your own unique point of view, and to do so by storytelling. So, I mean, Toastmasters, improv, along with that book, I think that's all you need. But the sooner that you're getting in front of people, the better. And then I think the rest will come over time.
All right. So that's part one. Do you want to go into part two? Do you want me to answer part one and then we'll go into part two?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So for part one, like I said, I like to keep it simple. I did a lot of what he did, and I read books. I read like a ton of books before I ever actually got on stage or wrote a joke. And I looked up the book that he mentioned, and it's for public speakers, right? And while it's a great start, I'm going to disagree and say stand up is a whole different animal than Toastmasters. Toastmasters is very much a speaking thing. Toastmasters usually has cards, or speakers have cards, or something to hold on to on stage. With comedy, stand-up comedy, you can't have any of that stuff, right? That's would not fly as a comedian to go up there with cards and read your joke off the cards or whatever like that. My recommendation would be to take one of Jerry's writing classes to learn how to write a joke. The next thing I would actually recommend would also be to read Jared's book, Playfully Inappropriate. Then I would take what I learned at Jerry's class and from Jared's book, and I would go get on stage at an open mic. And once you understand how jokes work and how to deliver them and all the stuff that Jared goes over, work on that open mic. Go there and every week write new material, write new stuff. When the ones work, when their jokes work, set them aside until you feel like you have about 5 minutes of material. Then work on that set consistently over and over and over again, right? And after you have that 5-minute set, then maybe look at acting or improv to supplement for your act outs, because a lot of comedians suck at act outs, right? They do the same thing, or they're not good at, they do something small instead of actually going for the full act out because they don't want to look stupid or they don't want to look whatever. They don't act out. I have a whole bit that I do about the Navy, and it's full of act outs. And the act outs are like, the words are funny, but the act outs are what really bring the crowd into the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that'll also help you break out of your shell more, because there'll also be a time when you're doing stand-up where you will improv a line. I guarantee you will tell a joke, and right as you're telling the punchline, another tagline will come into your mind and you'll spit it out and it'll get a bunch of laughs, and you better have recorded it. You better have recorded that line, because you'll never get that again. So make sure you're always doing that. I've taken acting classes myself. Luke's done improv. So both of us can tell you that those have been very helpful. If you really want to be a comedian, a stand-up comedian, I would say skip Toastmasters from now. Now, that's going against what Luke just said, but I would say skip it for now. If you want to be a comedic speaker, or like travel around and give like business lectures or funny business lectures, or talk at like high schools or something, totally go for that, right? If that's what you want to do. If you want to be a stand-up comedian, you want to be Jerry Seinfeld, Dave Chappelle, whatever, you have to get on the stage of the club. You have to get on stage there, because there's no other place in the world that's going to treat you the way that the club treats you. As for writing, the writing portion, I always recommend that comedians write every day. I write one joke every day. Sometimes I write more than one, but I write one joke every day. It doesn't even have to be stories. If you want to write out a story, that's great, but write a joke every day. If you want to be a comedian, that's what you have to do. If you want to be an author, then yeah, write 100 words a day or 1,000 words a day or whatever it is to get to what you want to do. I want to be an author. I'm working on a book. I'm writing stuff every day for that too. Just to kind of give you a thing, I'm not on social media. I know you mentioned social media and all that stuff. I'm not on social media. Right now I have 3 pilots in various stages of work. I have 4 podcasts that I do basically every week, 2 books that I'm working on, one that's fiction and one that's nonfiction, the ComedyPreneur blog, several client projects, and I'm learning programming and cybersecurity all at the same time. I'm doing all these things at once, right? And I'm telling you right now, you can, if you want to do all these things at once, go for it. Just know your day is going to be a long day. And if you work a 9 to 5 or you don't have another way to bring in income, it's going to beat you up, and you'll give up. A lot of comedians have a hard time working a 9 to 5 and then going to the club for a couple hours and doing stand-up. Eventually, after 1 year, usually they give up. Sometimes faster. I've seen it happen faster. If you can juggle everything and not burn yourself out, or give a little bit to each every single day. I heard someone say on YouTube, this programmer that I was watching, he's a game developer. He said, I just want to do make sure that I never had a 0% day, that every day I did something. I did at least one thing. So if you write one joke, you write one line for your story, you practice your set one time, you go to the club and get up, for that 5 minutes. You whatever all those things you want to do, as long as you do one of those, like one thing for each of them every day, you'll be fine. I make a list in my phone. I literally have a list every single day of all the stuff I'm going to do, and I go down that list. I never have more than 6 things. That's my max that I do every day, because otherwise I'll totally get burned out. But I have 6 big projects that I have to work on every single day, and I write them down and I do them every single day. So that's what I would say. I would say get good at stand up and then branch out to the other things, because it takes a while. And stand up, I think of all the things I've ever done in my life. And keep in mind, I've been in the military. I've gone to college. I have 3 degrees. 2 of them are master's degrees. I did MMA for a couple of years. I did weightlifting and weight stuff. I did I've worked in all kinds of businesses. I used to travel like 4 weeks, almost every week, every month, flying to different places all over the country and all over the world. I did all this stuff, and I can tell you right now that if you want to do something, if you want to be something, it takes a lot of time. And stand-up comedy is the hardest thing I've ever done. It is by far the hardest, because it is the most vulnerable you'll ever be in your entire life. It's the scariest situation, but it's also one of the most rewarding things ever. So that's how I go. So now, do you want to go to part 2, Luke? Do I need to reread it again?
No, we can. Yes.
I do?
Yes.
Okay, so let me
Please.
reread it.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're James, if you're going to do a podcast and I have more ideas I'd like to get verification on to see if my understanding is solid. My impression about being successful in comedy is one has to be successful in 3 main areas: writing, performance, and business. Failure in any one of these 3 is going to be limiting to one's career. Performance would encapsulate acting and improv presentation. Writing would encompass story writing and joke writing. Business would be networking, advertising, the plethora of other knowledge and soft skills. Business would also include retaining good management too. In terms of writing comedy, my understanding is that personal experience, point of view, and level of comfort with sharing information about oneself or personality are the biggest drivers of comic material. While technique is important to cultivate the material, make it funny, technique is not a mystery or should be secretive. It's one's personality that's going to be the source of material, how that material is presented. All right, go for it.
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone's going to have their own style of comedy, and that just comes by doing it. But I think the most important thing I saw in there is kind of the networking part of it. Yeah, writing's important, but like, don't get caught up on writing and don't spend all your time writing. Like, it's more, you got to find like some good balance of performing and writing, but like they're equally as important. And then with the networking, it's more of just like, hanging out and being in the scene and knowing people who do stand up, and that's going to lead to more shows. That's going to lead to friendships. That's going to lead to, good things in the future. And yeah, you got to kind of just get into it. And then, the business stuff happens after all that. A lot of shows are going to be free. A lot of self-promoting, a lot of, asking your family to tune in and come out. And it's going to be a lot of that, but that's part of it.
Yep. No, exactly. I agree. So first of all, I want to let everyone know you only fail at comedy if you don't improve or you don't go anymore. That's it. That's the only way you can fail. You don't fail by getting up on stage and not getting laughs, because you're growing every single time. Even when you have bad nights. I've had nights where I've bombed and I have nights where I've killed. So that's the thing. Now, if you go a year without writing a joke, or you never learn how to do an act out, or you never learn how to put a set together, then yeah, you might fail. But those are things because you're not growing, you're not improving, which is the same thing. Or you're that guy who tells the same set over and over again for like 5 years. You've like I said, again, you've never written a new joke, you've never done a new thing. That's where you're going to fail. Comedians don't fail because they can't write. There are some great comedians that don't write jokes. Chappelle works stuff out on stage. So I am a big believer, and I've listened to a ton of other comedians who've gone ahead of me. 99% of comedians write, right? There are some anomalies, but Jerry Seinfeld didn't become Jerry Seinfeld because he worked it out on stage. He worked it out in his apartment, every day writing stuff, and that's why he's Jerry Seinfeld, right? The other thing is, as long as you don't fall into a rut or get stagnant, again, you're not going to fail. I am of the mind that comedians do need to be business minded. You know from the ComedyPreneur show, from what I preach, that you should be turning your funny into money. That this is not this could definitely be a hobby for people, right? But if you want to take it seriously, if your goal, it sounds like your goal is to be a famous comedian or be a big time comedian, uh, then you can't treat it like a hobby. You have to treat it like a business, and which means, um, you know, write a joke, perform on stage, be kind, be courteous, network, and then also ask for what you're worth. When someone comes and says, "Hey, can you do my show?" I can, it's a paid gig, and you're like, "Cool, how much is it?" And they go, $5, but you need to drive all the way, 100 miles. You're like, "Come on, dude! Like, no, I can't do that." You know what I'm saying? But if it's like, "Hey, I have a show here on Friday. You're already performing here right now, and it's a paid show. I'll pay you $10 to come on Friday. Can you do that?" Yes, and then honor that obligation. Be there on Friday at the time they ask you to be there. I always pay comedians. I have always paid comedians. I will always pay comedians because to me, I'm taking your time, I am taking your talents, and I'm using it right for myself and for my show. So I should pay you, right? Um, I also agree with you that comedy should not be secretive, but unfortunately, here's a little peek behind the comedy curtain in case you guys don't know. Comedians are insecure and they think if you find out their secret sauce, there's not going to be a spot for them on the lineup. There's not going to be a spot for them on the Tonight Show. There's not going to be a spot for them on a movie or a film or whatever other BS they have in their mind. They think if they tell you anything about how to write a joke or how to do this or how to do that, that's somehow going to diminish what they do. That is the sad fact of most comedians. They will feel they're guarding what they think is theirs. You probably worked with these people who have all the knowledge to all the things that work, but when you ask them how to do it, they're like, "Well, I'll do it. I don't want to tell you," because they feel like their job will be gone if you learn how to do it. But really, what the case is their job will get better because now someone else can take on that little task and they can learn something new and grow more. It's the people that and it's the guy who's been there. It's the guy who's been there for 15 years doing the same job and always complaining about not getting a raise or promotion. It's that guy. You know why? Because he's not growing. He's stagnant because he's scared that if he gives up what he has, he's not going to go anywhere. But if he actually just put in a little more effort, he would be the boss now, or he would be the boss's boss, or whatever that thing is. Instead, he stayed in that same role for 15 years or whatever it is. So like I said, learn to write jokes, learn to do act outs, and learn to ask for the money that you deserve. That's the biggest thing. Is a lot of comedians say, "Well, I just want the stage time. Well, I just want the stage time. Why I just want the stage time." Okay, when you see a booker or you see a guy who booked you on the show handing other comedians money in front of you, and he didn't hand you money, you're gonna go home pissed. Excuse my language. I apologize because I've been in that situation. I've been in that situation where I saw somebody who paid all the other comedians except for me because I didn't ask. I didn't ask how much I paid. I just said, "I'll take the stage time." And it was my fault. I shouldn't be mad at that person. I'm not mad at that person anymore, but I was mad at that person for a long time. And I was very bitter about that. So ask what you're worth. If someone says, "Hey, yeah, we have a show," so just say, "Hey, I don't want to be a jerk, but does this pay? Do you know, like, do you pay?" And they're like, "No, I can't afford to pay anybody." They say that to you, cool. All right, you can choose to do the show or not do the show. If it was me, I'd still do the show. But if they say, "Oh, I can't afford to pay anybody but the headliner," okay, that's a different thing. I get it. If that dude has TV credits and I don't, cool. All right, he earned it. Now, if it's like, "Hey, I can't pay you, but because I got to pay everyone else," I would do that show. That would make me mad. It'd be like, "Well, whoa, whoa, whoa! You asked me because obviously you think that I'm funny enough to be on your stage representing your name, and you're going to make money, obviously, or something off of me, so I should get paid for that." So just keep in mind, if you do those three things, right? Learn to write a joke, learn to do act outs, and learn to ask what you're worth. You'll be ahead of 90% of the comedians out there because most of them will not do those things. I know comedians who literally for an entire, at least every time I heard them on at open mics, did the same exact set over and over and over again, and it drove me nuts. I wanted to grab and be like, "Write a new joke," or, gosh, this was the worst, and I'm glad this is over. Actually, when Trump was president, every joke they had was a Trump joke. And it was like, dude, in 4 years or whatever, say he got in a plane wreck for some reason, but he didn't, obviously. But say that would happen, your whole set's gone, bro. You have no set now. Learn to write a real joke. And you're right. Write about yourself. Write about your personal stuff. Write about your own stuff. Write about who you are. Tell your own stories. You do that, you're going to kill it. You notice all the best comedians have their own voice. Now, you don't have to tell your own stories. Someone like Rodney Dangerfield could still exist, right? Because those weren't real stories, right? He wasn't, that was not his real life. That was a character that he made up. I love Rodney Dangerfield. He's one of my favorites. Steve Martin, again, bizarre. None of that was personal stuff. Very bizarre, very out there. Could somebody do that? Yes. And hopefully, hopefully we'll get another one again. Or Steve, if you're listening to this, come back, man. Come back. We need you. You know, Eddie Murphy is about to make a comeback. So I think you could do anything you want, but if you don't know how to write a joke, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And there are people who get lucky, right? We've seen this. The guy who gets on stage and happens to get the laugh for the one thing that it's his throwaway, his like the thing that he says after no one laughs at him, then he gets a laugh, right? Then he thinks that that's what he needs to do is like say the bad joke and find the after joke. It's like, no. You just find the joke. Like, don't do those two things. I hate that. That's like the worst too. So I hope that answers your question, the darkness. I hope that answers everything you want to answer. If you have more questions, put it in the comments of YouTube. I'll be more than happy to answer it. If anyone else has questions, we love questions, right?
That's a great stage name, The Darkness.
It is. That's your stage name. You tell me where you're going to perform. I'm coming to see you. I'll find a way. If you're going to be on a Zoom show, I'll come watch your Zoom show. If you're going to be in LA, I'll come to LA and watch your show. That's where I am. But yeah, I would love to see your results. And here's the other thing too. Not just the darkness, but anybody else. If you want help, reach out to us. We will help you. Right? We helped other comedians for 2 different times. We helped other comedians do stuff. Right? So we're 100% into helping somebody, and we'd love to mentor somebody again. That was one of my favorite things that we did. You know, I liked it. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, David's cool.
Yeah. David is cool. David Ross, right? He grew a ton from that year of doing that, right? And it was just one of those things where he constantly was. That's the thing. He was constantly improving. He was constantly writing jokes. He was trying new stuff, and he grew. You know,
and he would do any show in the 200-mile radius.
Yeah. Listen, good for him. That's not me, but good for him. Right. Mm-hmm. That's a man dedicated. I'm 100%. I love that about him. I'm not going to drive 200 miles for nothing. Right. Unfortunately, I can't afford to do that. He can. Good for him. So there you go. What else? Do we have anything else to promote or talk about?
No.
All right. So guys, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening to the podcast. Please like, subscribe. Please go to YouTube and subscribe. Please go to YouTube and subscribe. I will really appreciate it. I need more subscribers. I'm getting so close to I think you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours to get monetized. I'd like to make money off of this and not from asking you guys from donations or Patreon or selling you merch or whatever. I don't want to do that. I rather YouTube already shows the stuff. I'd rather just take that money, honestly, to help pay for the stuff that we have to cover. So please, everyone who listens, I know there's a bunch of you. Please go subscribe on YouTube. Please, I'm asking you kindly. I'm asking you, do it a favor for all the terrible stuff that happened in 2020. Please make my 2021 better, and let's get me to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Please. I'm going to keep asking every single episode until you guys do it. So until we hit 1,000, it's going to be every episode. Once we hit 1,000, I'm going to do something special. What I'm going to do is here's what we're going to do. At 1,000, I'm going to pick a bunch of subscribers. We're going to do a raffle, and we're going to have them on the podcast. And we're just going to let them ask whatever questions or talk about whatever they want to talk about. We're not even it doesn't even have to be comedy. As long as it's clean, we'll talk about whatever. So if you want to talk about you believe in aliens, cool, let's talk about it. If you want to talk about buying GameStop stock, cool, let's talk about it. Whatever you want to do, I don't care. We'll do that. So we'll do 5 people once we hit 1,000. And then what I'll do is maybe every month we'll do one episode where I draw 5 people to come on the show. So we'll do something like that. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please have a wonderful week. Luke, where can people find you?
LukeLacoy, and feel free to send me your donations. I'll take them.
All right. You can check me out, JamesDCreviston.com or JamesDCreviston on YouTube or ComedyPreneur, ComedyPreneur.com. Check that all out. Don't forget to check out the ComedyPreneur show. Trying to get that growing too. So I could have some more guests and more people on. So we have some great guests coming up pretty soon. I'm super excited. I just booked another guest for us. It's coming up in another week. So we're gonna have some awesome guests coming. So thank you all for listening. Have a wonderful week and talk to you later. Bye.